Hey everybody, welcome to episode 6 of my videos. It's been a week, or I had last week that I did my videos, so I had an entire week of them, 5 days to start out with. This week I'm going to keep going. I'm going to probably do a video every day this week. I think I'm not going to do anything on Saturdays and Sundays just because there's just too many distractions and things going on. But I'm going to try to keep to the schedule Monday through Friday, at least a half an hour. I tend to be going over. I don't know if that's an issue. Maybe I'll scale it back. It's hard. Once I get going, it's hard for me to stop. So I'll try to keep half an hour is my goal. You know, a little shy, a little over, okay, whatever. But this week, for this episode, I'm going to talk about Transformers and my experience with them. I think, I've talked about G.I. Joe a bit, talked about Masters of the Universe, and then got into Star Wars. So I think to cover the big three, or I guess if you want to put in Star Wars, the big four of the 80s, let's do Transformers, kind of, seal that up. I've been talking about 82, I've been talking about 1984, or sorry, 83, so this would be 1984. Like I said, at this time, I kind of was dying off of Star Wars and Return of the Jedi. I started to get big into G.I. Joe pretty heavily. I'm still kind of into that Dungeons and Dragons line and playing the game and stuff, but I'm going to do Dungeons and Dragons as a whole. It probably is going to be 2 episodes because there's a lot I have to say about D&D. It's a very integral part about that time of my life. But Transformers, coming on in 84, I was still in G.I. Joe pretty heavily, and that was the last year that I actively collected Masters of the Universe. In 84, I didn't know I was going to stop in 85, so that hadn't come about yet. But, the show started, the toys came out, I don't know which one came first. I did have a couple of GoBots previously, the prior year, because, they beat them to the punch when they came out. I had Leader 1, and I think I had Psykill. I think I had a big Psykill, or I had a big one too, at one point. I can't remember what the name of that one was called. But I didn't really get heavily into the GoBots. I thought the concept was cool, the transforming, cars and vehicles. I thought that was neat. I liked robots. I still like robots. They're not my favorite thing. I guess if you're every kid, robots, ninjas, dinosaurs. Robots is probably up there. I mean, I like them. They're cool. Especially at the time. It was the 80s. I mean, it was robot crazy back then. Kind of plays into the whole... I'll get into Robotech and the Robotech Defenders and then Battletech and how that whole weirdness came about when they started bringing over a lot of those robots, or mechs as they call them. But let's start with Transformers because it's big. So my experience with them was this. I remember the cartoon airing, I believe, on Sunday mornings. I can't remember exactly, but must have been in the fall. So I would have been, well, obviously I would have been 11, but I would have been going into 6th grade. So that the cartoon started. I remember specifically going to JK toy stores in Winchester Mall with my dad, and he was, figuring out what I wanted to get for Christmas that year. And I did want G.I. Joe stuff, but when we got there, they had all the Transformers laid out on this end cap. Kind of, you walk in the mall, you'd walk into the main store, the register was there, and then right behind it, they had an end cap which had the action figures on both sides to the one aisle, and I can't remember what was on the left side of that aisle, like games and stuff like that, crafty stuff. But that one aisle was action figures, and anything new, like when G.I. Joe 83 came out, that's what caught my attention, was seeing that whole end cap there filled with, all the 83 guys and Polar Battle Bear and stuff. So this one did the same thing. They had that end cap for Transformers, and they pretty much had, I assume, all of them at the time. Maybe not every single one of them, but it was a nice full display. You know, they had some pegs, they had a top shelf, they had a bottom shelf, and of course, the one I zeroed in on right away before anything was Soundwave. Now, I don't have my vintage Soundwave. I don't even have a reissue that Soundwave I was talking about when I went to Walmart and saw it as a reissue. I'd like to get it at some point. I think you can still get it online. It's not super pricey, but it's up there. And it's a cool looking one. I wouldn't mind having them, but for the time being, I have the this one, which is, I believe, the part of the Netflix line. The Netflix, they had the 3 different shows: the Kingdoms and the Siege and the Earthbound, and then they had that Netflix kind of offshoot, and that's when I got this guy. And he came with, I believe, Laserbeak or Buzzsaw. I can't remember which one it was. And he came with, I think it's the only one he came with, because I got Ravage and Rumble separate. Because remember, this is, okay, so maybe if I didn't say it before, I'll say it now. That Toys R Us by Lakeside Mall also, they had a display. And I think we ended up doing this when the figures came out towards the late summer, I believe, in '84, because we went to that Toys R Us, and the only thing I ended up getting, because I wasn't sure if I wanted to get into Transformers yet, my dad looked at the prices, and he was like, these are expensive. So I think I got the tape set. I think I must have seen Soundwave there, and then saw the tape set. I'm fuzzy on that. If I went to JK Toys first, maybe I went to JK Toys first, and then we went to Toys R Us, and I already knew about these existing, so I ended up getting them. But this, and of course these aren't the original ones either, but these 2 were my very first Transformers. That would make sense, because I remember my dad only bought this one when we went to JK that time, because he said, these are expensive, so I'll get a couple of them. You can get a couple of them for Christmas. So he bought this one then, and then, I couldn't play with it. It was in the closet until Christmas, which drove me insane. But he bought that, and then I think we did end up going out to Toys R Us. I think it was Toys R Us right around Halloween time, so it must have still been the fall, yeah. And I wanted to get the tapes, and they were relatively inexpensive. I think they're $5 for the set. So we got the tapes, so I would have the tapes for Soundwave when they came out, and and the cool thing was, it was '84. I mean, I think my sister had a Sony Walkman, or Walkman, or whatever they call them, that we had that I liked, and I think I ended up getting a Walkman that summer as well. I don't think it was a Sony. I think it was a Realistic from like Radio Shack. But I ended up getting a Walkman myself. So the whole Walkman, Soundwave thing just totally pushed all my buttons. But and I love Panthers. I just thought Panthers looked cool. So getting Ravage I thought was really neat. And I liked Rumble. Even though this technically was Frenzy, because Rumble's blue, and I don't know, but the toys were marked Rumble and Ravage, and Frenzy and Laserbeak, I believe, were in the other one, or Frenzy and Buzzard. Again, I get those 2 birds mixed up. I don't have Frenzy. The thing is, I don't like either one of these. I mean, these particular ones. I mean, the Ravage looks okay, but he's so boxy and weird looking, and he's just, I mean, I guess he looks as good as the old one, but a little more articulated. But I don't know, they look kind of weird. I do have somewhere, I bought a knockoff Masterpiece version of Soundwave, which I have somewhere, should have pulled them out, and I bought the tapes, and the tapes looked really good. The Ravage looked really good. I liked those, and they're knockoffs. They weren't, I can't afford Masterpiece Transformers. I'm just not going to pay that kind of money. So the knockoffs I got from China, who knows where they came from. They came in like a foam crate. I thought there was going to be centipedes and marijuana in there when I got it, but apparently not. Just toys. So I got the I got those guys, and I like them. But again, in this sound wave is okay. It's not the best. It's decent. That's doable. For I only paid $30 or $40 for this. I got it at a Walmart. I remember me and my son we were tooling around, and that's a story into and of itself. But I got him. That's not the first of the new Transformers I got, by the way. What really got me on the... Well, let me go back to the stories from '84. So back in '84, yeah, we got... my dad got the Soundwave, and then he said he'd pick up some more later. And then I figured I would probably end up doing some myself. But the thing was... that Christmas, you could not find them. I don't know if anybody else had this experience. Maybe it was just a Michigan thing. Maybe it was just a Detroit, Michigan thing. I don't know if it happened in other states. But that Christmas, you could not find even a tape. You couldn't find a thing for Transformers. And my dad's like, well, what the heck? What's going on? And back then we had rotary dial phones. And I sat there with a phone book and the rotary dial phone and got in a lot of trouble with my mother for racking up the phone bill, because that's back when you had to pay for long distance. And I was calling every single toy store in the Detroit area. Every Toys R Us, every KB, every mom and pop, Kittyland, anything you could, Circus World, you name it, toy store, I was calling them, hunting down Transformers, and it was just hello? Hey, do you have Transformers? No. Oh, do you know when they're going to come in? No. All right. It was pretty much that. One after another, probably racked up $100 in long-distance fees at the time. My mom was furious. But, I couldn't get I couldn't find them. So, what's the guy to do? So I said, okay, let's focus on G.I. Joe and finish off my He-Man collection so I can get that out of the way. But my dad's statement is saying they're really expensive. My dad was the one always buying most of the toys for me. And if my dad thought they were expensive and kind of balked at the prices, there ain't no way I was going to get my mom to buy any of them. So I realized, I'm going to have to up my game. If I'm going to get into this Transformers or even just continue collecting toys the way I am, I'm going to have to up my game. I'm 11 years old and going into the 6th grade, and I'm like, I'm going to have to do something about this. So the first thing I did, as I was mowing my grandmother's lawn, who lived 3 doors down at the time, she gave me $10. And I'm mowing her lawn, and I thought to myself, I like mowing lawns. I like doing outside yard work and stuff. I like shoveling snow. It's kind of backbreaking. I like shoveling snow. I like, doing flower beds and stuff like that. I liked, doing light landscaping, that a 11-year-old kid could do. I wasn't going to do anything heavy. I wasn't lifting stones or anything like that. Anything I couldn't lift myself and put in a wheelbarrow is about as much as I was doing. Raking leaves, all that type of stuff. So I asked my grandma, hey, because she had the lawnmower, and I used the same lawnmower to mow our lawn down the street because my mom didn't have a lawnmower. And I said, hey, can I use the lawnmower to go mow other people's lawn and make some money? She says, sure, go out and do that. And she ended up paying for the gas in the original, and until I realized how many customers I was getting, then I had to start paying for my own gas, which is fine. And I hit every old person in the whole vicinity. Every elderly senior citizen I could find, I hit them, because none of them wanted to mow their own lawns, and their kids are grown up and moved away and not living around. So it was a gold mine. There was a lot of old people in downtown Rochester at that time. A lot of people, I would say, easily 65 plus. Oh, I don't know if my grandma was 65. She might have been in her early 60s, but right around that age. Then we had the O'Donnells across the street. We had, or even their daughter was older, and she lived in the house there. I had the Brants. I had about 9 different houses up the main street in University Drive. I went up to Ledlow. I think I had 6 up on Ledlow. In any given week, it was fall, so it was kind of tying down of lawn mowing season. It was more raking leaves at that point. And the O'Donnells had a leaf blower that they let me borrow for a little while. I never got a leaf blower myself, but they let me borrow the blower for a while. Otherwise, it was hand raking, and dragging them out on sheets to the curb so the truck could suck them up. But I think once the next summer hit, which plays in '85, which plays into my comic book, I really started getting into comic books at that time. I was getting into comic books in '84 as well, but same issue, money. So I think at the height of my career of doing that, which lasted, I want to say, late 1984 to late 1986, because we ended up moving out of that subdivision. But that entire time, I probably had 10 to 15 people to do a week, and when it's in the summer, when you got nothing but time because you're not in school, and they're all giving you, $8, $9, $10 a piece. Some people gave me an extra, somebody gave me 15 at one time, which, doesn't sound a lot today, but back in 84, 85, 86, getting $10, $15 to do a lawn was a big deal. And so I was making $100 a week, doing that stuff. And I wasn't making, I was still making about that doing, well, not a week, but in the winter when it did snow, I was cranking. And I actually, my entire, sixth grade wasn't so bad. We had a lot of snow days, but, and I could do them on snow days and stuff. And I did stay home a lot, but I'll get into it later. But my seventh grade, I started at the junior high in seventh grade. I didn't go, barely. I mean, essentially, you could have said I quit school because I wanted to stay home all the time and shovel snow every time it snowed. Because I could make more money than go to school. It's like, so I miss a day, But then, we had a lot of snow that winter. I missed a lot of days. I missed a lot of days for shoveling snow, and I wanted to keep up on Robotech. We'll get to that later as well. But anyways, so yeah, I had to up my game, and I had to start paying for my stuff. I had this cookie tin that my grandma had given me prior Christmas, and I used to put money in it and save money. And I had this cookie tin, and there was probably easily $100 at any given point in that cookie tin. And my mom was always saying, "Where are you getting all this money?" I said, "Well, I'm mowing lawns." She thought my dad was giving it to me at the time, but he wasn't giving it to me. It was me working for it. And so that was me in Transformers. I had to up my game and start doing stuff. And then, again, still calling every place. It was after Christmas. I'd gotten my Soundwave. I had called a KB Toy Store in Meadowbrook Mall, which was kind of a hike up the road. Expecting to hear nothing. And they said, "Hey, we just got 2 Transformers in." "What'd you get?" And they gave me the names, and I never heard of them because they weren't in the catalog. They're called Jump Starters? What the heck is that? I had no idea what that was. So these Jump Starters had just come out. And that's what they had. They got 2 Jump Starters in. I don't know what they were. So I didn't get on my bike. I walked in the snow. It was the dead of winter. It was after Christmas. We're talking February. Walked up there in snow, which was a hike. Had a fistful of money in my hand ready to blow. And I got in there, and the guy had 2 of them that he opened out of the box and had them at the front counter. He was playing with them. And he's showing it to me, and I'm like going, "What are these?" And he's like, "Well, these are the new Transformers." I go, "Is that all they do?" He says, "Yeah, aren't these neat?" I'm like, No, these aren't neat at all. I don't like these at all. These are stupid." And I was disappointed. He's like, "Oh," and it's like, "Oh." So I went over and looked to see if there's anything I was missing in the toy aisle. I may have picked up a dude, a Joe or something, and then ended up walking back home, with my tail between my legs, totally disappointed. Going, "Jump Starters? Oh, those are stupid." So I ended up going back there. And then time went on, and I ended up walking up, because Kittyland wasn't as far, and I ended up walking up to Kittyland one time. I didn't even call, just walked up there. And I walked in there, and the new Transformers had started to come out for '85. And one of the ones they had on there, on the shelf, was Jetfire. and he was pricey. I think he was $29.99 at the time. It was more than a play set. So I was like, ooh, I think I'm going to wait on him, or maybe, I don't know what I'm going to do about him, because I had a birthday coming up. But one thing that caught my eye was the Dinobots. Didn't know they hadn't hit the cartoon yet, so I had no idea what they were. And the first one I got, again, this is the newer version. This is the Studio 86 version, but was Slag or Slug or Slag. I think it was Slag. I think they rename this one's renamed Sludge or something. They couldn't call him Slag because Slag is somehow offensive. Not politically correct to call somebody slag. Maybe it rhymes with something else. I don't know. But that's what he was to me. At least I believe it was. Because I know Sludge was the other one. Slag was this one. But anyways, I just called them the Trice. I didn't even call these by name. I never called any of them by name except for Grimlock. I always just called them the Triceratops Dinobot. That was all I called him. So, he was my first one. And I still remember in 6th grade, I was still in 6th grade at the time, I had him, I had a jean jacket as well when I was a kid. I had my jean jacket, and we were all sitting there at the lunch table at lunchtime, and I made a peep all day, and I actually had these two guys in my desk, because I remember Derek Parker always wanting to see him every 5 minutes, and then he ended up commandeering him for a little while. I had him in his desk, and I think I brought Sounder to school at one point, but I wasn't normally a bring the stuff to school, kind of kid. But we're all sitting there, and I think Jason Malinowski was, going off about stompers, and I just go like this, and everybody's jaw just dropped at the table. All our little 6th grade minds were blown. I remember Jason Grube going, "What's that?" And I go, "This here, my friends, is a Dinobot transformer." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Yeah." And I think Derek Parker knew. I think he knew they existed, but he didn't have any. He's like, "Oh, yep, got the Dinobots." He was never. He act like he wasn't impressed, but I know he was impressed. But Grube was just drooling at the mouth, and a couple other kids. Malinowski, who really wasn't into Transformers at the time, he was kind of a car guy. But even he was still like, "Oh, that's pretty sweet." So that was the first Dinobot that I got, and then I eventually ended up going back up there before they sold them out. I grabbed Sludge, and I grabbed Grimlock, of course. Gotta have him. Now, funny thing is, to this day, it's according to the website I use to monitor all my toy collection. This is my most expensive most expensive single item that I own. I think it goes for $150 is like the average price right now. I only paid $29.99 for them because I bought them from Sure Things Toys, and they made a mistake. They ended up selling them for $29.99 and free shipping when they were supposed to sell them for $49.99. So actually got a kill. I actually made a huge profit on him, if I was to ever sell him, which I don't plan on doing. But he's my most expensive worth toy to this day of any other toy that I have. I don't buy a lot of really expensive stuff. I think, Grayskull's not worth as much, but Grayskull was one of my major purchases. And then this guy. So for that Christmas, my dad had ended up getting him for me, which would have been the Christmas of '85. I got, again, this is the new version, I got Jetfire. So when this Jetfire came out, it was $79.99, and I was like, "Oh, that's pricey, but I gotta have him. I gotta have Jetfire." I mean, he looks like he does in the cartoon, more so than the original toy, which was just a Robotech or a Macross Valkyrie at the time, repainted. But yeah, he was one of my favorites, and very impressive one. Love that toy. Love this toy. But he's one of my pricier toys that I bought recently. Yeah, Everybody liked the Jetfire. Jetfire was a cool one. And then when Jetfire eventually showed up on the cartoon, which he may have showed up by that time, I remember the episode. And again, the Dinobots ended up finally showing up onto the show after, I got the toys. I thought cool because I got them before anybody else knew who they were. I got all those guys. Now the problem also at this time, though, if we're going into 1985, what time we got? 25 minutes? Okay, I can wrap this up. Is I was starting junior high, 7th grade. And in the 80s, I'll get into this more, I don't think this is a thing nowadays. I'm not sure. My son's going into 6th grade, so he won't be. It is at a junior high now because they do 6th through 8th. So we'll find out with that. But kids don't play with toys today anyways. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of moot. But it was not cool to be playing or buying any of this stuff at that time, going into 7th grade. So you were very, very secretive. Suddenly, not only could you had to, get the money together to buy this stuff, it also became a clandestine hunt thing where you were sneaking to the store. You weren't sneaking because you're sneaking from your parents. You're sneaking from other kids. Because you did not want to get ratted out at school of being, a kid still playing with toys in 7th grade. So it was tough. I mean, it was the adrenaline would just go through you. You'd be at a store, you'd see something you want, you'd be looking around. You'd have to. It was like going into a strip club, or it's like like a Lutheran going into a bar on a Sunday. I don't know if that joke even makes sense, but anyways, he was. You'd be like, you have to look over your shoulder going into the toy store to make sure nobody sees you. Hell, if you get caught in there, you're done. So you'd sneak into the toy store, and I remember I went to Kittyland, and they had all 3 of the Insecticons, and I had the loot to purchase it, to get all 3 of them. And there were 2 girls who were 9th grade at the time from my junior high. 2 girls in there buying stuff for their little brother or whatever, looking for, hey, my brother's looking for, and all of a sudden they look over, and I didn't really know them, and they didn't really know me, but I think they spotted me, and they go, that kid looks familiar. I'm like, I'm done. I've been caught. First thing they're gonna do is tell everybody at school what's going on. Luckily, I don't think they recognized me, and they didn't know who I was. It's a good thing sometimes being invisible to people. Sometimes it sucks, but sometimes it goes in your favor. I don't think they knew who I was. So, and I don't think they even pointed. I don't even think I really saw them much after that incident, but I almost got caught. I almost got caught buying toys in 7th grade. So, and that continued. I mean, and that wasn't just a peer thing, being scared of, persecution at school for still liking toys. But my dad didn't care, but my mom, she was very, very adamant against me stop playing with toys and got very upset anytime I came home with anything new. Couldn't win, My grandma didn't care so much. Because all this stuff's newfangled contraptions to her anyways, being from the Depression era, But my dad, he just kind of shook his head. He's like, yeah, whatever. Whatever makes you happy. But my mom was against it. I'm not sure what my sister's feelings were at the time. I'm assuming she was rolling her eyes whenever I wanted toys, at that age. But, it's the sucked about becoming a teenager was being collecting toys as a teenager was a hard thing to do. Transformers is difficult. But I don't want to make this a second episode, but I guess let me end on this note, because I'll probably just talk about this in a full other episode later, is Transformers the movie in 86. I saw it in the theater. I had some of the toys, not all of them, but I had some of them. There's, I guess the biggest controversy with Transformers the movie was, the death of Optimus Prime. Here's my Optimus Prime. He's a Siege or an Earthbound? Earthbound, I think. Did I have Optimus Prime as a kid? I did. I did have Optimus Prime as a kid. But I didn't care. Again, this is the whole thing with Star Wars. Luke Skywalker, Han Solo. I didn't care. I mean, I thought he was cool. I thought Optimus was neat. He's neat looking. You know, I liked the voice. You know, I liked Optimus Prime, but I didn't really care about him so much. You know, I didn't really like I liked the bad guys, or I liked some of the, like the Dinobots, like Jetfire. But, there were Autobots. I mean, Jetfire was a Decepticon first, but, I love the Decepticons. I like Megatron. I like the Jets. I think out of the 3 Jets, my favorite's still Skywarp. The Thundercracker's cool. I don't have the Skywarp Thundercracker double set. I for some reason passed on it. Now I don't know if I can get it. I have Starscream from Earthbound. I don't have the Coronation Starscream. I still want to spend $50 for another Starscream just to get a crown and a cape. So I'll keep the Starscream that I have. I'll eventually try to find the other 2 Jets, but yeah, Skywarp was my favorite of the Jets, just because he was black. I thought the black Jet looked so sweet with the purple. Yeah, I'll get into the movie later. But yeah, so the Optimus Prime thing, I didn't care. I thought it was cool. Hey, cool, he got killed. That's neat. Oh, they killed Megatron. Oh, Megatron's still alive and turns into Galvatron. All right, that's cool. My heart wasn't broken. I didn't cry my eyeballs out in the movie theater, I was just like, man, they're coming out with new Transformers. I know it was a ploy to get everybody to buy more product. I didn't care. I bought more product. I just rolled with the punches, man. It was just, I liked all this stuff, and that's all I have to say on that. So I'll get into more about the movie. The soundtrack was a big thing for me, but probably doing this episode all into itself just about Transformers the movie. And I've got a bunch of the toys. That's actually what kind of got me back into the toys, was the Studio Series 86 line. The only guy up here I got right now is Hot Rod, which arguably I would say out of everything that I purchased in 2001, I think he is the best figure, best toy in general that I've purchased in 2021, and I got bulk of my collection in 2021. But I gotta say, that Hot Rod is hot. That's sweet. And I got Blur, and, I've got some of the other ones I had to filter in that weren't in Studio 86, like Cyclonus and Galvatron, which were Kingdom. I don't want to get all my Transformers out. Last thing I'll end with on this, because it's 32 minutes. The thing I can't stand about Transformers, the number one thing, I hate transforming them. My blood pressure goes through the roof, and I am so bound just to throw those things against the wall when I transform. I get so angry transforming them. Sure, it's fine if I know them, and after the first few times I figure it out like anything else. But that initial trying to read the directions, I've got to go to a video on YouTube to figure out how to transform these new ones. But I just get so angry and just want to throw the thing against the wall. So transforming Transformers is a pain in the ass, and I don't like doing it. So I try to keep them in whatever favorite mode I like them in. That's pretty much the mode they're going to stay in when they go on the shelf. And if I feel like it one day, I feel like torturing myself, I'll pull out the directions and try to transform or look them up on YouTube. But I don't like to transform my Transformers. However, that said, I don't like to buy like the Red Series or Super 7 where you can't transform them, they're just in robot mode. I like to have the option to transform them, even if it's going to turn me into a raving lunatic. I like to have that option. But I don't like to transform Transformers. Okay, so I think I said enough on that. Alright, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Figure something out, probably at the last minute, and I'll see you then. Alright, take care.